Hello, and welcome to the Angus and Pete Show. Views and opinions are strictly those of the presenters and their guests and should not be taken as advice. Goodness knows, we're not qualified to advise you about anything. Side effects may include mild amusement and occasional enlightenment with feelings of embarrassment, apathy, disappointment, and pity.
Welcome to episode 8. I'm Angus Pacey.
And I'm Pete Brown, and we are the Angus and Pete Show.
This is the place where you can listen to two old guys chatting about the riveting world of customer engagement.
Customer engagement, aka call center, contact center, customer service, customer experience, CX, etc., etc., etc. Not so much of the old, Angus.
If you want to find out more about us, check us out on LinkedIn. We always start episodes with the post bag. So, Pete, what have you seen in our post bag this week?
Lots of pats on the back. I would say that, wouldn't I? And I'm going to say it again. People have been very nice and very complimentary. It would be nice to have a few challenges. It'd be nice to have a few dissenters. Unless, of course, we are perfect, which we may be. It's happened before. If you've got something nice to say, keep saying it. But also, if you've got something challenging to say, please let us have it, because we need and relish the challenge.
We like people who argue with us.
We do, because that's what we are. And you tend to like people that are like you, don't you? Anyway, we do have some things in the post bag. Dorian from Basel in Switzerland said that everything we said about RFPs in our last 3 episodes was spot on. But he wants to know, how do you shape the questions that you get as a seller to your advantage? Well, Dorian, there is only one way, and that is engage early, build your relationships, and influence the customer. And if you're not doing it, you can bet your bottom dollar that someone else is. There's no shortcut. It's hard yards. It's get involved early, say something interesting, and keep that conversation going. And you will have an influence whether you are doing it intentionally or not.
Yeah. Don't look for leads in procurement because it's too late. Don't ambulance chase.
Yeah, we've said it. We don't need to say it again. If you want to know the answer, Dorian, go and listen to the last 3 episodes. Sandy from Washington, and Sandy doesn't say whether that's Washington, DC or Washington, Tyne and Wear. When are you going to do RFP part 4? Because I want more detail.
That's not one part 4. That's going to be about part 7, 8, 9, 10.
You know, it's all very well saying I want more detail. Well, Sandy, about what? If you've got specific questions, ask them, because I'm sure our wider audience will be as interested as you are to hear the answers. Tim, who's somewhere in the UK, said, the RFP stuff's all very interesting. Can we recommend someone to advise on what customer engagement technology he should buy?
What? They want somebody to go into a customer and basically give them the answer.
Yeah. So if you want to take that approach, there are a couple of things you could do. One of them is go and read the analyst reports and just pick a vendor you like the sound of, or get the magic quadrant, stick it up on a dartboard and throw some darts at it and see which vendors you land closest to. Like we said to Dorian, influencing customers and building relationships, there are no shortcuts. For buyers, there are really no shortcuts when it comes to selecting technology. You need to go through a process, you need to understand your requirements, you need to go out there and you need to have a proper dialogue, a proper conversation, a proper process so that you don't make mistakes. And if you cut corners, you will make mistakes. That's what happens. Anyway, what have we got today, Angus?
You know, we've been ruminating on this the whole week. What are we going to talk about? And the first idea that we had was we've just come out of the analyst communities and the pressers communities looking in their crystal balls and going, what's going to happen in 2025? So we started the week out thinking that way.
And then somebody said, Angus, there is only one thing to talk about in the customer engagement space in 2025, and it's AI, and we don't know how to talk about it. So can you give us a clue, please?
There was a general panic. I mean, talking to salespeople, they kind of said, yeah, we hear all about the technology, but how the hell do we actually go and sell this to people? What do we talk about?
Yeah. And there's an expectation from buyers that vendors and sellers generally have got this sorted and have got all the answers. And the reality is, from what I can see, we're all in learning mode. The people that actually have probably got the most authoritative knowledge about AI at the moment are the people that are building it, the techies, And as we've said, they have their place, but it's not at the opening of a conversation between a seller and a buyer. So what we thought we'd try and do in this next 30 minutes or so is see if we can't come up with 4 ideas that can be the foundation of conversations between buyers and sellers. The critical thing about those ideas, those topics, is that they're not technical. You don't need to know the technical ins and outs of AI to have those conversations. Because going back to Dorian's point in the post bag, this is all about engaging early with customers. AI is no different to any other technology. Engaging early, saying something interesting and starting the conversation. Technical people aren't good at that because it gets too detailed too quickly. So we need to elevate that conversation. So this is what we're going to try and do, Angus.
So if you think about it, if you lead with a technical discussion, you end up being a walking feature guide, which is of no use to anybody except showing off just how much you know about the technology. But, chatting to people, and as we kind of worked through this, there were 4 themes that came out. Let's just work through them in sequence, and then we'll try and unpack at the end what the real takeaways are. The first one is it's a hybrid world. It's not one or the other. So we've got a blend of human beings and AI that we have to take into account. And you've got to think about those as you're talking to business people. They've got employees in the organization and they want to look at AI. How does that come together?
So that's about 2 things from a business case perspective. On the one side, we're talking about reducing cost.
Yep.
And on the other side, we're talking about improving efficiency. And there's a bit of a cyclic discussion about where you start with those 2. I hear a lot of people talking about AI, a lot of sales organizations talking about AI, and they don't really know whether to say it's all about reducing your headcount or it's all about making your people more effective and more efficient.
But they're not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
I think it's both.
A bit of both.
Because if you think about it, the CEO is absolutely looking at business outcomes, return that he can get and drive for his stakeholders.
Yeah.
The CFO in the organization is absolutely focused on maximizing that profit and cutting costs as far as they can. So I think it's a blend between how do you make the people in the organization better and more efficient? How do you reduce costs? Because ultimately that looks like a good business case.
Okay. So we can talk about explaining the economic benefits of AI as labor and cost reduction, but we can also talk about the benefits of AI in terms of efficiency and effectiveness.
Yeah, and I think you've got to look at both of those. It's not about cutting people out. Everybody's saying, are we going to lose loads of headcount? I don't believe that's going to happen. If you can automate some processes using AI and redeploy those humans onto high-value activities, then you've got a win-win in both environments.
In our world of customer engagement, or CX, which has been known as contact center and call center for many, many years, it's all been about those people. It's all been about those bums on seats, and they're being seen as a cost. As we move forward with the help of AI, those people are going to become much more important, much more about quality than quantity. And in many respects, brand ambassadors, the face and the voice of a business. So enabling them to do that properly and effectively is important. We hear all the time, it's actually quite difficult to get the skills and the people that I need to fill this position. And the customer engagement agent market is no different. Most agents actually want to go to work and do a good job like we all do. But if you're using AI to make that whole job more attractive to them, not necessarily easier, but more straightforward, more rewarding, so that they can be better at their job, then that could be a pull. That could be a way of attracting workforce.
I think it's also maintaining your workforce. If you think about the costs in a contact center, the biggest cost is driven by having to replace agents on a regular cycle, churn.
Yeah.
Because every time you lose experienced agents, you've got to retrain them. You've got that window where the new people are not as effective as they could be. So I think from a cost perspective, if you can make that experience using AI better, reduce your churn, you've got a cost-based win.
Right.
Straight away. I think if you're a seller, it's worth having a conversation and saying to a business leader, what do you think? I don't know. Let's have a discussion about it.
Okay. How can we use the whole AI piece to address those challenges? Make your people more effective, make their experience better. And we all know if an agent employee experience is good, then the chances of a customer experience being good are even better, which brings us on to the second topic. So we've spoken about effectively the internal audience, how AI can collaborate and support and enhance agents. There's also the customer. That's the other part of the equation. So the customer experience, what AI can really deliver is a personalized and trusted interaction at scale.
That's the goal. But if you think about it, all this noise in the press and the industry and, on TV, on the news, that's creating a level of expectation in the consumer base that things are going to get better. But at the same time, it's creating an element of fear, I would guess, especially in our current environment where you've got polar opposite views. What's going to happen to my data? What are you going to do with my information? And you're right. They want the benefits of personalization, but at the same time, don't trust what could happen.
But AI has the potential to drive better customer experiences at scale and bring high levels of personalization and trust and integrity into those interactions. How far away are we from that, Angus? I've spoken to a number of vendors, and I've spoken to a number of buyers and sellers, and I can't find a single one of them that's actually done anything that's being spoken about here, other than maybe a few trials with AI. And those trials seem to be focused on what's already being automated. How far away are we from actually doing something here? It doesn't stop the fact that we need to have those conversations early, but how far away are we from delivering the dream?
I think this is moving really quickly.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we've got to just call out right at the beginning. I think the other thing is that we've gone through phases where all in the press you've got AIs hallucinating and giving incorrect information, breaking down their trust, and that ends up in a lawsuit. And that has got to be sitting in the business leaders' heads going, what's the risk of doing this? At the same time, the techies are all talking about these sexy solutions that are looking for a problem.
Yeah.
And I think in the beginning, most of the AI is going to be around making the agent more effective because it's internal, it's controlled. And I think where you've got simple processes and workflows that are very well defined, not too complex, that can be relatively easily implemented, that's where we're going to start seeing the initial deployments going forward.
The customer-facing ones. Yeah,
the customer-facing ones. But they've got to be simple, they've got to be manageable, and also they can't cost too much. Because I think we're going to go into an era of bill shock here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people are going to suddenly see how expensive this can be, and they're going to start weighing, the business is going to start going, okay, what's the benefit I get out of this versus investing in people? What's the process? So I think we're going to see an evolution. I think 2025 is going to be the year of the big experiment.
Yeah.
That's how I would characterize it. The business is going to test, and they're going to see, and everybody's in that phase right now because it's changing so fast. Expectations are high, and there's so many different changing customer expectations, data privacy laws, and all that sort of stuff is changing. So that personalization, that trust is going to evolve rapidly in 2025.
That's the second topic to talk about. So we're speaking about the employee experience, what AI can do to collaborate with your people to make them and your business more effective. And we're talking about the customer experience piece, which is AI can help you to do what you're doing now more effectively and look at all this other stuff that you may not be ready for, you may not be comfortable with, you may think is a bit risky, you may not be able to get a handle on the cost yet, but it's there when you need it.
Yeah, and maybe an opening topic to talk to a business leader about. Where are small things that we can do, that we can test, that are easily mapped and we can measure, and you can do it in such a way that you're not going to end up, if you cock it up, with massive reputational damage.
Right.
Where can you test it? Because I think, you've got to experiment.
Back in episode 4, when we the AI exhibitionists when we were talking about our attendance at a trade show and the whole plethora of AI messaging. One of the things we touched on then was you can test and investigate AI in silos with specific use cases, but it looks like at the moment when it comes to deploying it, you really need to be looking at platforming that thing and looking at a much bigger picture. Otherwise, the business case doesn't stand up. It's a very expensive thing to use AI to simply replace an IVR system that's been working quite well for the last 20 years. It's quite a narrow business case. It's quite a difficult business case to justify. So
it's not going to be a sliced business case. And maybe that is an episode we can look at. What should sellers and buyers be looking at in that context of a business case? How broad does that actually go? Yeah. Maybe that is a follow-on topic that we can look at.
So the other thing that I've seen increasingly is the whole thing around ethics, ethical implementations, ethical use of AI. If our first idea is talking about the internal audience, the agents, or your staff, your employees, and the second one is talking about your customers, then the third one should be an open conversation about what ethical best practice is when it comes to AI. It's complicated.
It's very complicated. And I think if you have a look at it, first off, what do you mean by ethics? And I think this is something that we've got to recognize, is that there's not one size fits all. If we go around Europe, Africa, Middle East, this is something that I would talk to business people on very early on to get their views. And I would have those discussions with multiple different stakeholders in the business.
Because it touches on the way that you treat your people, which has implications with HR and everything that goes with that. You've got the way that you treat your customers, which isn't just about security and privacy. It's about corporate social responsibility. You can apply a lot of what we already consider to be best practice and ethical practices to AI, but there are a lot of things that are different. So I guess we're in another situation where no one really knows all the answers. So having those conversations early and learning from each other as sellers and buyers is probably a good thing to do right now.
You know, just thinking aloud, the last people that sellers ever want to talk to is the legal department.
Yeah.
Most companies now have got somebody in the organization that is that social responsibility stakeholder.
Yeah.
And now if you're an account manager, those guys that take people out to dinner, they've got the biggest expense accounts, go and have a chat to those people and find out what they are thinking and bounce ideas off them and engage. Right. You know, you're not trying to sell anything at that point in time. You're trying to actually discover what outcomes those people are thinking about and what roadblocks are suddenly going to pop out the woodwork.
Right. And who's not going to want to talk to a seller when they pick up the phone and say, do you know what? I want to come and talk to you about AI. We don't know all the answers. We want to hear what you're thinking. We want to hear what you're doing. We want to hear what you need. That's where we need to start. And we need to start that conversation right now. I know a lot of vendors are doing it. I know a lot of sellers are doing it. If you're not doing it, you need to be picking up the pace because AI is moving fast.
Marketing, I think this is one for marketeers that may be listening. You know, if they're not listening, they should be listening. Yeah, this is a brilliant idea for a executive roundtable breakfast briefing.
So ethical considerations are things that we need to be talking about. That was topic number 3. The fourth topic has got to be sustainability and the environment. And I can't help thinking that a lot of people are talking about AI and its benefits and what it can do and what it can't do. And we're sort of papering over the cracks a little bit on the sustainability and the environmental angle. What do you think?
Depending on where you are in the world, depends on how important this is on the agenda.
Right.
And there's certain parts in the world where it's lower on, let me just put it diplomatically, which is one of the few times I will ever be a diplomat, is it is lower on the agenda in the US than it is in EMEA. Just, it's an observation from I would love to be incorrect on this one. Americans, prove me wrong, please. In Europe, it is a topic of discussion. Just like regulation is, sustainability is absolutely
and specifically what are people talking about? What are the questions that they've got around sustainability in the environment?
Drain on resources and what resources are required to make this happen. What is the impact on all our natural resources to enable this? Where's this power going to come from?
Yeah.
How much space is going to be there?
Yeah.
Cooling is a mega issue. And if you look at some companies are going to have to bring this back on premise because there are regulatory drivers and latency issues, how long it takes to send this to the cloud and get back again. Some of this is going to go on-prem. How are you going to actually make this work?
Right. So we've got space, we've got power, we've got connectivity. You mentioned cooling.
We spoke about this when we were talking about CC Expo and all the different vendors that were on the floor, how much water it takes to cool. That's changing really rapidly. I mean, we were talking about 1 glass of water for X number of transactions. And that was what, 5 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
The latest research coming out says we got it wrong, sir. It's 4 times that amount.
Right. We're going to be using a litre of water as opposed to a glass of water.
Where we thought it was going to be a glass of water. So who knows? Is it going to be a bucket full next time? I've got no bloody idea, but nobody knows at the moment. And it is changing pretty rapidly. Now, people have got to think about that. And it is a topic in Europe.
There's another scary stat I heard. It just the scale of it is mind-boggling. So when it comes to the power requirement, by the end of 2026, this stat said the global data center estate will be using more power than Japan. Do you know, Angus, how much power Japan actually consumes?
No bloody idea. I mean, no normal human being would know that.
I'll tell you the answer because I Googled it. I'll tell you the answer, and it doesn't mean anything because the numbers are just so ridiculous. So just electricity. Japan in 2023, which was the last year that the annual figures were available, used 880 terawatt hours of energy.
No, I can't even frame that in my.
I looked at my electricity bill and tried to work backwards, and it didn't work.
It doesn't work.
So anyway, the numbers are huge, and the challenges are huge, and therefore the potential implications are huge around space, power, connectivity, water, energy, the whole lot. Having that conversation is something that we should be doing.
I've just had a thought. If you've been following Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies, last year there was a big discussion about how much power it took to power the whole crypto industry.
Yeah.
With AI coming on now, if you've got Bitcoin, you better sell it because you're not going to have any power to power the cryptocurrency. It's all going to be used by AI. So get out of Bitcoin quick.
There you go. So we are not giving advice on this podcast, particularly financial advice. But anyway, thanks for saying that, Angus.
So, Pete, what are the takeaways?
I think to summarise what we've just been talking about, what we've been rambling on about, as a seller or as a buyer who wants to start a conversation about AI, there are 4 non-technical themes that you can focus on. The first one is humans and AI working together. And really the business case for that area, or part of the business case, I think should be focused on how AI can make humans more effective, more efficient, and not just about replacing them. That's the first one. So the second one is this whole thing around customer experiences. And if deployed correctly, AI can enable more personalized interactions that customers trust. So personalization and trust at scale. That's number 2. Number 3 are the ethical considerations of AI, including regulations and compliance, with as much focus talking about corporate social responsibility and the effect that AI has not just on your business, but on the societies that we live in and the people that live in them with you. And finally, there's the sustainability and the environmental impact, space, power, connectivity, and cooling. We don't have all the answers. But
No.
the best way to establish what those answers are is to broaden the conversation and have those conversations. And sellers and buyers are in an ideal position to do it. You know, selling AI is no different to selling any other tech. It may feel different at the moment, but the basic principles are the same. Start conversations early, focus on the business issues. To some extent, keep the techies in the cupboard and out of the way until you know what business people require and what their desired outcomes are. And the best way to do that is have conversations. And those 4 topics are our suggestion at the moment.
I think it's a good one. I think if you put it into one sentence, stop trying to define the solution until you know what the problem is that you're trying to solve. It's the age-old adage that everybody kind of forgets about.
Absolutely. And in 2025, remember, no one has all the answers. And if they say they have got all the answers with AI, then you can assume they've been on ChatGPT and got them from there. No one has all the answers. We're learning as we go, and the best way to learn is to talk to each other. So they're my takeaways, Angus.
I think they're good ones. So we'll be back next time with episode 9. In the meantime, please follow the Angus and Pete Show page on LinkedIn for news, notifications, and message us directly and let us know what you're thinking. Absolutely challenge us. Let us know what you want us to talk about, how we're doing, and please keep that post bag bulging.
Yeah, the show is available on all your favourite podcast platforms. So listen and like and subscribe and share and help us to spread the word and tell your friends.
Hold on, Pete.
Yeah.
You're not finished yet.
We're not.
It's joke of the week time.
Joke of the week time. Increasingly my favourite time of the week. So here's one. Punchy and to the point. Angus, what is AI's favourite kind of music?
Okay, these are getting more and more esoteric.
Algorithm and blues.
Cheers, Pete.
Cheers, Angus.
Thanks for tuning in to the Angus and Pete Show. Remember, it's based on the personal views and opinions of the hosts and their guests. If you're feeling aggrieved or litigious, take a chill pill. There's already enough stress in the world. Don't forget to follow our page on LinkedIn and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform for more episodes. We'll see you next time. Oh, and tell your friends.